Listen carefully. Life does not promise comfort. It does not promise fairness. It only promises change. The Stoic does not beg life to be easy. The Stoic trains the mind to be strong. Today, you will hear 8 brutal Stoic laws. They are not soft. They are not kind to weakness. But they will make you mentally unbreakable if you live by them. You control your mind, not events. This truth is simple, but most people fight it every day. They waste their strength trying to shape the world, to bend people, outcomes, and chance to their will. When things do not go their way, they grow angry, bitter, and tired. The Stoic sees this struggle as pointless. The world moves by its own rules. Storms come without asking. People act from their own fears and desires. Fortune rises and falls without warning. None of this is yours to command. What is yours is the space inside your mind, your thoughts, your judgments, your choices. Between what happens and how you respond, there is a gap. In that gap lies your freedom. Most people never see it. They react without thinking. They let events pull their emotions like strings. An insult becomes rage. A loss becomes despair. A delay becomes frustration. They believe the event caused the feeling. But this is an illusion. The feeling comes from the meaning they attach to the event. An insult is only sound. A loss is only change. A delay is only time passing. These things are neutral. It is the mind that labels them as unbearable, unfair, or humiliating. When you understand this, you begin to take back control. You stop asking life to be different and start training your inner response. You learn to pause. You observe your thoughts as they arise. You question them. Is this thought true? Is it useful? Is it within my control? When something goes wrong, the Stoic does not panic. Panic assumes danger where there may be none. Panic hands control to the moment. Instead, the Stoic says, "This has happened, now what depends on me?" Often, very little does. You may not be able to fix the problem. You may not be able to reverse the damage, but you can always choose how you carry it, calm or chaos, dignity or complaint, reason or impulse. This does not mean suppressing emotion or pretending not to feel. It means not letting emotion rule. Feelings rise naturally like waves. The Stoic allows them to pass without building a home in them. Anger is noticed, not obeyed. Fear is felt, not worshipped. Sadness is acknowledged, not allowed to define the self. The mind remains the leader, not the servant. When you focus only on what you control, your energy stops leaking away. You no longer argue with reality. You no longer replay the past hoping to change it. You no longer fear the future as if it were already here. You deal with what is in front of you, one decision at a time. This creates steadiness. Others may call it confidence, but it is simply clarity. People may misunderstand you. Plans may fail. Effort may go unrewarded. If your peace depends on outcomes, you will always be restless. If your peace depends on your own conduct, you become stable. You judge yourself by your actions, not by results. Did I act with honesty? Did I respond with reason? Did I do my duty as best I could? If the answer is yes, the rest does not matter. Control of the mind is built through practice. Each day offers chances, waiting in line, receiving criticism, facing delay, experiencing loss. These moments are training grounds. Instead of saying this is unbearable, say this is an exercise. Instead of saying this ruined my day, say this tested my discipline. Over time, the mind grows stronger, quieter, more ordered. When you stop trying to control events, you stop fighting shadows. When you take responsibility for your mind, you take responsibility for your life. The world may remain uncertain, harsh, and unfair, but your inner state becomes steady, guided by reason rather than reaction, anchored in what is yours to command, moment by moment, thought by thought. Pain is a teacher, not an enemy. Most people spend their lives running from it, hiding from discomfort, and numbing anything that hurts. They treat pain as a mistake, something that should not exist. When it arrives, they panic or complain, asking why life is so cruel. The Stoic sees pain differently. Pain is part of being alive. To reject it is to reject reality itself. The question is not how to avoid pain, but how to meet it. Pain shows you where you are weak. It points directly to the places that need strength. Without pain, growth would be impossible. Muscles grow through strain. Character grows through pressure. The mind sharpens when it is tested. Comfort makes you soft. Struggle makes you solid. This is not cruelty. This is nature's design. When pain appears, the first reaction is fear. The body tightens. The mind rushes to escape. But fear adds a second wound. The Stoic separates the sensation from the story. The sensation may be intense, but the story is optional. Saying this is unbearable makes it heavier. Saying this is temporary makes it lighter. Pain does not demand panic. It only demands endurance. There is a difference between pain and suffering. Pain is what happens. Suffering is what you add to it. Complaints, resistance, and self-pity turn a moment into a prison. The Stoic refuses to decorate pain with unnecessary thoughts. They do not insult themselves for feeling it. They do not dramatize it. They observe it calmly, like a visitor passing through. Pain teaches patience. When you cannot escape discomfort, you learn to stay still within it. You discover that you are stronger than the sensation. You learn that pain rises and falls like a wave. It never stays at its peak forever. This knowledge removes fear. Once you know you can survive pain, it loses its power to threaten you. Pain also teaches humility. It reminds you that you are human, not invincible. It breaks pride and false confidence. This is not a weakness. It is clarity. Humility opens the door to wisdom. It makes you attentive. It forces you to listen, to reflect, to adjust your path. Every hardship carries information. Failure teaches what success hides. Loss teaches value. Rejection teaches independence. Fatigue teaches limits. If you treat pain only as punishment, you miss the lesson. If you treat it as guidance, it becomes useful. The Stoic asks what can be learned here, not who is to blame. Training the mind to accept pain does not mean seeking it for its own sake. It means not collapsing when it arrives. Life will bring pain whether you want it or not. Illness, aging, disappointment, and death are unavoidable. Preparing for pain is an act of wisdom. Avoiding it is an act of denial. Voluntary discomfort strengthens the spirit. Choosing to wake early, to work when tired, to endure silence, to limit pleasure, all teach the same lesson. You do not need perfect conditions to act with discipline. You do not need comfort to remain steady. This practice builds confidence that cannot be taken away. When pain no longer controls your behavior, you gain freedom. You stop chasing ease and start choosing what is right. You stop asking what feels good and start asking what is necessary. This shift changes everything. Fear loses its grip. Excuses lose their voice. Pain refines your values. It strips away what is false. When things are easy, it is simple to pretend to be strong. When things hurt, truth appears. Pain reveals character. It shows whether you rely on comfort or principle, avoidance or courage, impulse or reason. The Stoic does not wish for pain, but they do not curse it. They welcome it as part of the training of life. Each difficult moment is a chance to practice endurance, restraint, and clarity. Pain becomes a signal to stand straighter, breathe slower, and think more carefully. Over time, the mind learns a deep lesson. Pain does not break you unless you allow it to rule you. It can shape you, educate you, and strengthen you. When you stop seeing pain as an enemy, it stops being one. When you listen to it without fear, it teaches you how to endure, how to grow, and how to remain steady in a world that does not promise ease except reality without resistance. Most suffering begins with the words "this should not be happening." The mind argues with facts as if anger could reverse them. When expectations clash with reality, frustration is born. The Stoic understands that reality does not negotiate. Events unfold according to causes far larger than personal desire. To resist what already is only drains strength and clouds judgment. Acceptance is often misunderstood as weakness. It is seen as giving up or approving of injustice. This is false. Acceptance is simply seeing clearly. It is the decision to stop lying to yourself about what exists. You cannot act wisely if you refuse to face the truth. Resistance keeps you stuck in denial. Acceptance opens the door to intelligent action. When something unwanted happens, the first impulse is emotional. Shock, anger, fear, or sadness rise automatically. The Stoic does not condemn this reaction, but does not build upon it. They pause and name the reality. This has happened. This is the situation. Nothing is added, no insult, no story, no judgment, just facts. The mind loves to imagine alternatives. If only this had gone differently. If only that person had acted better. These thoughts feel productive but achieve nothing. They trap you in a past that no longer exists. Acceptance cuts these thoughts short. It brings attention back to the present moment, the only place where choice still lives. Resisting reality creates internal conflict. One part of the mind knows what is true, while another refuses to accept it. This division creates tension and fatigue. Acceptance restores unity. When the mind stops fighting itself, energy becomes available again. Calm replaces chaos. Clarity replaces confusion. The Stoic accepts what cannot be changed and focuses on what can. This is a disciplined form of realism. You cannot change the weather, but you can choose how to dress. You cannot control another person's actions, but you can control your response. You cannot undo the past, but you can shape the next decision. Acceptance draws a clear boundary between what is outside your power and what remains within it. Many people believe that anger proves strength. They think that refusing to accept reality shows courage. In truth, anger often hides helplessness. It is easier to rage than to adapt. Acceptance requires maturity. It requires the courage to face facts without drama. It demands restraint, not indifference. When you accept reality, you stop wasting time wishing it were different. You begin working with what is available. This makes you effective. A calm mind solves problems better than an emotional one. A clear mind sees options that anger obscures. Acceptance sharpens perception. Life is constantly changing. Health fades. Relationships shift. Plans collapse. Those who cling to how things were suffer deeply. Those who accept change remain balanced. The Stoic expects change. They understand that stability comes from the inside, not from external conditions. Acceptance also protects dignity. When you refuse to accept reality, you often complain, blame, or beg. These reactions weaken character. Acceptance allows you to remain composed. You may still feel pain, but you do not lose self-respect. You stand upright in the face of difficulty. There is peace in saying, "This is what I am facing now." Peace does not mean happiness. It means the absence of inner war. When the mind stops fighting reality, it stops punishing itself. Energy once spent on resistance becomes available for endurance and action. Accepting reality does not mean accepting injustice forever. It means recognizing the present conditions before attempting change. You cannot repair what you refuse to see. Acceptance is the first step of all improvement. Without it, action is blind and emotional. The Stoic trains daily to accept small inconveniences, delays, noise, discomfort. These moments prepare the mind for greater challenges. Each act of acceptance strengthens resilience. Over time, the mind becomes steady, less reactive, less fragile. Reality will not soften for you. It will not explain itself. It will not apologize. Acceptance allows you to move in harmony with it rather than colliding with it. When you stop demanding that life meet your expectations, you free yourself from constant disappointment. By accepting reality without resistance, you reclaim control over your inner world. You stop being a victim of circumstance and become a student of it. You meet each moment as it is, not as you wish it to be, grounded in reason, steady in judgment, ready to respond with clarity instead of complaint. Desire less to gain freedom. Most people believe happiness comes from getting more. More money, more comfort, more praise, more pleasure. Their minds are always reaching forward, never resting. Each desire creates a new dependency. When the desire is not fulfilled, frustration appears. When it is fulfilled, fear of loss follows. The Stoic understands that unlimited desire leads to unlimited unrest. Desire itself is not the problem. Being ruled by desire is. When your peace depends on external things, you place your happiness in fragile hands. Anything that can be taken away can also disturb you. The Stoic trains the mind to want less, not because less is noble, but because less is stable. The more you need, the easier you are to control. If you need luxury, you fear poverty. If you need praise, you fear criticism. If you need comfort, you fear hardship. Each unnecessary desire tightens a chain around the mind. Freedom begins the moment you loosen those chains. Reducing desire does not mean living without joy. It means learning to enjoy what is already present. A simple meal tastes rich when hunger is honest. Rest feels deep when effort has been real. Silence becomes pleasant when the mind is not addicted to noise. Gratitude grows naturally when desire shrinks. The Stoic separates needs from wants. Needs are few. Wants are endless. Food, shelter, basic clothing, and purpose sustain life. Everything else is optional. When you confuse wants with needs, you feel deprived even in abundance. When you recognize how little is truly required, you feel rich almost anywhere. Desire distorts judgment. It makes you impatient. It pushes you to act before thinking. It convinces you that you must have something now. The Stoic slows this impulse. They examine each desire and ask whether it serves reason or only appetite. Many desires fade once they are questioned. Training in simplicity builds strength. Choosing plain food, simple clothes, and modest habits reminds the mind that comfort is not essential. This practice removes fear. When you know you can live with little, you stop worrying about losing much. Voluntary simplicity prepares you for involuntary loss. Desire often grows from comparison. Seeing what others have creates dissatisfaction with what you already possess. The Stoic avoids measuring life against others. Comparison steals contentment. There will always be someone with more. There will always be someone with less. Peace is found by looking inward, not sideways. When desire quiets, attention sharpens. You become present. You notice small details. The sound of wind, the weight of your breath, the steadiness of routine. These simple experiences were always available, but desire distracted you from them. Contentment grows in the absence of constant wanting. Desiring less also improves character. You become harder to manipulate. Promises and threats lose their power over you. When nothing external controls your happiness, your decisions become cleaner and more honest. You act from principle, not from craving. The Stoic does not reject pleasure, they simply refuse to chase it. Pleasure that arrives naturally is welcomed. Pleasure that demands compromise is declined. This balance protects integrity. A disciplined mind enjoys without attachment and lets go without grief. Fear is tied closely to desire. The more you want, the more you fear losing. By reducing desire, fear weakens. A mind that is content with little stands firm in uncertainty. It does not panic at change. It does not cling desperately to outcomes. Desire also feeds impatience. Wanting results immediately creates anxiety. The Stoic focuses on effort rather than reward. They do what is right today and let outcomes unfold in their own time. This removes pressure and restores calm. When you desire less, life feels lighter. You stop carrying the weight of endless expectations. You stop bargaining with the future. You become flexible, adaptable, harder to disturb. Freedom is not found in getting everything you want. It is found in wanting little and needing even less. When desire is restrained by reason, the mind becomes spacious and calm, capable of standing steady in abundance or scarcity, guided by sufficiency rather than hunger, prepared daily for loss. Everything you have can be taken. This is not pessimism. It is honesty. People, health, strength, reputation, comfort, and time itself are not owned, only borrowed. Most suffering comes not from loss but from surprise. The Stoic is never surprised by loss because they expect it. Attachment grows when you forget impermanence. You begin to believe things are guaranteed. You speak as if tomorrow is promised. When loss arrives, it feels like an injustice. The Stoic removes this shock by reminding the mind daily that nothing external is permanent. This practice does not harden the heart. It steadies it. Preparing for loss does not mean living in fear. Fear comes from avoidance. Preparation brings calm. When the mind rehearses loss, it reduces panic. It becomes familiar with the idea that change is natural. What is expected does not overwhelm. When you love someone, remember they are mortal. When you enjoy success, remember it is temporary. When you feel healthy, remember the body ages. These thoughts are not meant to ruin joy. They sharpen it. Knowing something may end makes you more present with it. Gratitude deepens when you understand fragility. Loss tests identity. Many people define themselves by what they have, their role, their possessions, their status. When these are taken, they feel empty. The Stoic builds identity around character instead. Character cannot be stolen. Courage, discipline, and reason remain even when everything else is stripped away. Preparing for loss teaches detachment, not indifference. You still care, but you do not cling. You hold things with an open hand, not a tight fist. This balance allows you to love fully without being destroyed by change. The mind resists imagining loss because it feels uncomfortable. But discomfort now prevents collapse later. Training in advance is easier than learning in crisis. The Stoic chooses the discomfort of reflection over the chaos of unprepared grief. Each day offers small chances to practice. A plan falls through, an object breaks, someone disappoints you. These are reminders. Instead of reacting with anger, you say, "This was always possible." This attitude reduces frustration. It replaces entitlement with realism. Preparing for loss also strengthens resilience. When something is taken, you focus on what remains. You ask what is still within your control. You shift from despair to action. The Stoic does not waste time cursing fate. They adapt. Loss reveals priorities. When something disappears, you see how much weight you gave it. If the loss destroys you, the attachment was too heavy. Reflection allows you to adjust before pain forces the lesson. The Stoic also prepares for the ultimate loss, life itself. Remembering mortality clarifies choices. It exposes trivial concerns. It reminds you not to postpone what matters. When you live with death in mind, you speak more honestly and act more deliberately. Preparing for loss reduces greed. When you know things do not last, you stop hoarding. You stop defining success by accumulation. You focus on use rather than ownership. This creates simplicity and ease. Loss is not failure. It is part of the contract of living. Everything that comes must go. The Stoic accepts this rule without bitterness. Acceptance turns loss into transition rather than tragedy. Daily reflection builds strength quietly. You remind yourself that nothing is guaranteed. You imagine life without certain comforts. Then when hardship arrives, it feels familiar rather than shocking. The mind stays upright. This practice also increases appreciation. Ordinary moments gain value. A conversation, a meal, a quiet morning. Knowing these may not return makes them richer. You stop rushing through life as if it were endless. Preparing for loss teaches humility. It reminds you that you are not in control of outcomes. This humility softens pride and reduces anger. You stop taking fortune personally. When loss finally comes, and it will, the Stoic is not untouched, but not undone. Grief may appear, but it does not rule. The mind returns to what is still possible. Breath remains, choice remains, character remains. By preparing daily for loss, you replace shock with steadiness, fear with acceptance, and fragility with strength. You learn to walk through change without collapsing, grounded in the understanding that nothing external was ever guaranteed, and that the only true possession is the way you meet whatever remains. Seek no approval. The desire to be liked is one of the strongest forces controlling human behavior. Many people shape their words, choices, and even values around how others might react. They fear judgment more than dishonor. They silence themselves to avoid conflict. The Stoic sees this as a quiet form of slavery. Approval is unstable. It depends on moods, opinions, and trends that change without warning. Today's praise becomes tomorrow's criticism. When your peace relies on how others see you, you give them control over your inner state. The Stoic refuses this trade. They choose self-respect over applause. Seeking approval weakens judgment. Instead of asking what is right, you ask what will be accepted. This bends character slowly. Small compromises feel harmless at first, but they accumulate. Over time, you lose clarity about who you are and what you stand for. The Stoic guards against this by anchoring decisions in reason and principle, not reaction. People will always judge. Some will misunderstand you. Others will project their fears onto you. You cannot stop this. Trying to manage everyone's opinion is exhausting and impossible. The Stoic accepts that being misunderstood is part of living honestly. Silence and truth both attract criticism. Approval seeking also creates fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of standing alone. Fear of being seen as different. This fear pushes people to follow crowds even when the crowd is wrong. The Stoic values independence of thought. They listen carefully, but decide for themselves. When you stop seeking approval, your actions become cleaner. You speak more directly. You act with consistency. You stop performing and start living. This does not mean becoming rude or careless. It means choosing integrity over popularity. The Stoic understands that respect earned from character lasts longer than approval gained from pleasing others. Approval is given easily and taken away quickly. Character is built slowly and remains under your control. One is external and fragile. The other is internal and firm. Many people confuse approval with belonging. They believe that without acceptance they will be alone. The Stoic knows that false belonging is worse than solitude. Being accepted for a version of yourself that is not real creates emptiness. It is better to be alone than to abandon your values. Seeking approval often leads to resentment. When you change yourself to please others and still do not receive validation, bitterness grows. You feel unseen. The Stoic avoids this trap by acting without expectation. They do what they believe is right and let opinions fall where they may. Freedom grows when approval loses importance. Insults lose their sting. Praise loses its intoxication. You stop rising and falling with every comment. Emotional stability replaces constant self-doubt. The mind becomes quieter. This does not mean ignoring feedback. The Stoic listens to criticism calmly. If it is true, it is useful. If it is false, it is irrelevant. Neither praise nor blame defines them. Only conduct does. Approval seeking distorts motivation. You work not to improve but to be seen improving. You speak not to express truth, but to impress. The Stoic removes the audience from their mind. They act as if watched only by reason. When you stop chasing approval, courage increases. You are willing to say no, willing to stand apart, willing to accept discomfort. Courage grows from self-trust, not external reassurance. The Stoic also recognizes that approval can be a trap even when positive. Praise can soften discipline. It can make you dependent on applause. The Stoic receives praise politely and releases it quickly, returning focus to effort and duty. Living without seeking approval does not make you cold. It makes you sincere. Relationships become more honest. You no longer manipulate or pretend. You allow others to be themselves while remaining grounded in who you are. Approval is outside your control. Your values are not. When you build your life around what you can control, the mind becomes steady. You stop bargaining with opinions. You stop explaining yourself unnecessarily. You act, you accept consequences, and you move forward. By seeking no approval, you reclaim ownership of your choices and emotions. You become harder to influence and easier to respect. The mind stands upright, guided by principle rather than praise, unmoved by approval and unshaken by rejection. Discipline over motivation. Motivation is emotional and temporary. It rises when things feel exciting and disappears when effort becomes uncomfortable. Many people wait to feel ready before they act. They wait for the right mood, the right energy, the right moment. The Stoic does not wait. They understand that waiting for motivation is unreliable and dangerous. Discipline is different. Discipline does not ask how you feel. It asks what must be done. It is calm, steady, and consistent. While motivation depends on circumstance, discipline depends on choice. The Stoic builds habits that function even when desire is absent. Motivation feels powerful, but it is unstable. It comes from inspiration, praise, or excitement. When these fade, action stops. Discipline continues quietly. It does not need encouragement. It is fueled by duty and reason, not emotion. The Stoic respects emotion but does not obey it. Feelings change like weather. If your actions depend on feelings, your life will lack direction. Discipline anchors behavior. It allows progress even on difficult days. Especially on difficult days, discipline begins with small commitments. Wake up when planned. Do the work you promised. Speak honestly even when it is uncomfortable. These acts train the mind to follow reason instead of impulse. Over time, discipline becomes identity rather than effort. Many people confuse discipline with punishment. They imagine harshness or cruelty. True discipline is not abuse, it is self-respect. It is choosing long-term strength over short-term comfort. It is refusing to negotiate with excuses. Excuses are clever. They sound reasonable. You are tired. You are busy. You will start tomorrow. Discipline recognizes these thoughts and moves forward anyway, not recklessly, but deliberately. It does what is possible now, not what is perfect later. Discipline removes decision fatigue. When habits are set, there is no debate. The mind stops arguing. Action becomes automatic. This conserves mental energy for meaningful choices, rather than constant internal conflict. The Stoic trains discipline through repetition. They do not rely on intense effort once in a while. They rely on moderate effort every day. Consistency builds reliability. Reliability builds confidence. Confidence builds strength. Discipline also protects freedom. Without discipline, desires rule. Laziness dictates action. Distraction controls attention. With discipline, you choose where your time and energy go. You are no longer pulled in every direction by impulse. Motivation seeks reward. Discipline accepts responsibility. Motivation asks, what do I get? Discipline asks, what is required? This shift changes character. You become dependable. You become resilient. The Stoic understands that discipline creates motivation, not the other way around. Action generates momentum. Progress builds confidence. Confidence fuels motivation. Waiting for motivation before acting reverses the natural order. Discipline is most important when no one is watching. Public effort earns praise. Private discipline builds character. The Stoic values the unseen work. They train when it is quiet, boring, and uncomfortable. There will be days when discipline feels heavy, when effort feels pointless. The Stoic does not dramatize these moments. They accept them as part of the process. They do not quit because something feels hard. Hardness is expected. Discipline strengthens the will. Each act of self-control reinforces the belief that you can be trusted. Self-trust becomes a powerful foundation. When challenges arise, you do not panic. You rely on the habits you have built. The Stoic does not aim for perfection. Discipline is not about flawless performance. It is about returning to the path quickly after deviation. When mistakes happen, there is no self-pity. There is correction. Discipline also creates peace. A life guided by structure is less chaotic. You know what you are supposed to do each day. Uncertainty decreases, anxiety fades, the mind rests in routine, motivation chases intensity. Discipline values endurance, intensity burns out, endurance carries you forward. The Stoic chooses the long path. When discipline becomes your guide, emotions lose their power to derail you. You act when tired. You continue when bored. You persist when progress is slow. Over time, this steadiness reshapes identity. By choosing discipline over motivation, you stop depending on moods and start relying on character. You move forward regardless of circumstance, grounded in routine, guided by reason, strengthened by consistency, becoming someone who does what must be done whether it feels good or not. Remember your mortality. This is not a dark thought, but a clarifying one. Many people live as if time is endless. They delay important choices. They tolerate what they should leave. They argue over small things as if nothing else matters. Forgetting death creates carelessness in how life is spent. The Stoic keeps death in mind to sharpen awareness. When you remember that life is finite, distractions lose their grip, trivial worries shrink. The mind becomes focused on what is essential. Mortality acts like a filter, separating what matters from what does not. Remembering death does not mean fearing it. Fear grows from the unknown and the avoided. Reflection removes some of that fear. When death is acknowledged, it becomes part of the natural order rather than a hidden threat. The Stoic accepts that death is as natural as birth. Time becomes precious when you understand its limits. Each day gains weight. Each decision matters more. You stop postponing honesty. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. The Stoic asks whether this action is worthy of limited time. Mortality teaches urgency without panic. There is work to be done, but no need for haste. Calm urgency focuses the mind. It encourages steady effort rather than rushed movement. You act deliberately because delay has a cost. Remembering death also reduces fear of opinion. When you know that life is short, you stop shaping yourself to please everyone. You stop living as a performance. The question shifts from what will they think to what is worth doing while I am here. Anger fades quickly under the lens of mortality. Many conflicts lose importance when measured against the fact that life will end. Holding grudges feels wasteful. Pride feels fragile. The Stoic lets go more easily, not because they are weak, but because time is too valuable to spend on resentment. Mortality strengthens gratitude. Simple experiences become meaningful. A quiet morning, a shared meal, a moment of clarity. When you know these moments are limited, you pay attention. You stop rushing through them. Remembering death also builds courage. Fear often comes from imagining long-term consequences. When you accept that all outcomes end the same way, fear loosens its grip. You are more willing to act according to principle rather than safety. The Stoic does not use death to justify recklessness. Life is valuable precisely because it is limited. This awareness encourages care, not neglect. You protect your health. You use your time well. You avoid unnecessary risks. Mortality exposes false priorities. Status, possessions, and applause lose importance. Character remains how you acted, how you treated others, how you faced difficulty. These become the true measures of a life. Remembering death also prepares the mind for loss. When people leave, you are not shocked. When health changes, you are not betrayed. You knew this was possible. This does not erase grief, but it prevents collapse. The Stoic reflects on death to remove illusions. You are not owed more time. You are not guaranteed tomorrow. This thought encourages responsibility. Each day is an opportunity, not a right. When death is remembered, procrastination weakens. You speak when you should. You act when you should. You stop saving courage for later. Later is uncertain. Mortality also brings humility. You are part of a long chain of lives that came and went. This removes arrogance. It places you in perspective. You are small, but your choices still matter. The Stoic lives as if each day could be the last, not in fear, but in readiness. They keep their affairs in order. They hold fewer regrets. They focus on effort rather than outcome. Remembering death quiets the mind. Many anxieties are revealed as temporary. Many desires are revealed as unnecessary. The mind settles into clarity. By keeping mortality close, you learn how to live well. You choose depth over distraction, integrity over comfort, purpose over noise. Each action is weighed against the truth that time is limited, and that this moment, like all others, will not return.